ExamPrep.School. Florida Professional Guardian Exam, exam code DOEA and OPPG. There are 4 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Compensation, fees and bonds, background checks, court reporting and monitoring, determination of incapacity, duties and powers, guardian of the person, duties and powers, guardian of the property, licensure and registration, procedures and Florida probate rules, rights, restoration and termination, removal and sanctions, standards of practice and ethics, types of guardianship. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. According to Section 744.102 of the Florida Statutes, an initial application for registration as an OPPG must include which of the following elements? A. Documentation of completion of all biennial continuing education courses. B. A credit report issued within 90 days of the application date. C. A recent renewal certificate of professional liability insurance. D. A copy of a court-authorized fiduciary bond. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is B. Section 744.102 requires applicants to submit a credit report dated within 90 days of application as proof of financial responsibility. The other items relate to renewal or post-appointment requirements, not the initial registration under this statute. Reason A is not correct. Continuing education requirements apply to ongoing registration renewal rather than the initial application under Section 744.102. Reason C is not correct. Professional liability insurance is not mandated by Section 744.102 as part of the initial registration process. Reason D is not correct. The fiduciary bond is obtained after appointment and is not part of the initial registration application under Section 744.102. Question 2. Guardian Jones seeks to register as a public guardian with the Florida Office of Public and Professional Guardians following her appointment. She submits her initial training completion certificate, the required surety bond, and the registration fee. Which additional document must she submit to satisfy the evidence requirements under FAC 58 meters 2.003? A. Copy of the court's order of appointment for each ward under guardianship. B. Certified Level 2 background screening report including a credit history check. C. Proof of current professional liability insurance coverage in the required amount. D. Letter of reference from a licensed healthcare professional detailing experience. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is the Certified Level 2 background screening report, including a credit history check. Because FAC 58 meters 2.003 requires screening and credit information, along with training, bond, and fee for registration. Reason C is not correct. The form does not require matching the umbrella limit in full. Reason C is not correct. Professional liability insurance proof is not required by FAC 58 meters 2.003 for registration. Reason D is not correct. A reference letter from a healthcare professional is not among the mandatory registration evidence. Question 3. Under Florida Statute Section 744.361, which of the following is not one of the functional abilities used to assess an individual's capacity to make personal or property decisions? A. Understand the relevant facts and their significance. B. Appreciate the likely consequences of decisions. C. Communicate choices by any means. D. Provide consent in writing to proposed actions. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is that providing consent in writing is not defined in Section 744.361 as a functional ability, whereas understanding relevant facts, appreciating consequences, and communicating choices are explicitly listed. Reason A is not correct. Ability to understand relevant facts is expressly included in the statutory capacity definition. Reason B is not correct. Appreciating consequences is specifically enumerated as a required functional ability. Reason C is not correct. Communicating choices by any means is clearly defined as part of the capacity standards. Question 4. A professional guardian is updating the annual care plan for a ward who lives independently but occasionally forgets to prepare meals and misses medication doses. To satisfy the least restrictive alternative requirement under FAC 58 meters 2.003, which intervention should the guardian include? A. Arrange for daily meal delivery services and scheduled medication reminder calls. B. Relocate the ward to an assisted living facility with a 24-hour staff availability. C. Implement a wearable GPS tracking device and continuous remote monitoring. D. Transfer the ward to a group home with on-site medical and daily living support. The correct answer is A. The correct answer maintains the ward's independence by providing targeted supports for meals and medications, while avoiding unnecessary restriction of daily living activities, fully aligning with the least restrictive alternative principle. Reason B is not correct. Moving to an assisted living facility imposes more restrictions than needed, given the ward's ability to live independently with modest supports. Reason C is not correct. Continuous remote monitoring is more intrusive and restrictive than scheduling meal deliveries and reminder calls. Reason D is not correct. Transferring to a group home removes more personal autonomy and privacy than required to address occasional meal or medication lapses. Question 5. Under Section 744.3725, which document must a petitioner file to demonstrate that the guardian appointment petition fee has been paid or properly waived? A. An affidavit of indigency signed by the petitioner and service notice. B. A clerk's electronic payment confirmation without court endorsement. C. An official clerk's receipt of payment or a certified court order waiving the fee. D. A petition footnote stating the fee will be paid within 30 days. The correct answer is C. The statute requires submission of either the official receipt from the clerk, verifying payment of the filing fee, or a certified copy of the court order, granting a fee waiver to satisfy proof under Section 744.3725. Reason A is not correct. An affidavit of indigency alone does not satisfy the statutory proof requirement without a formal court order or payment receipt. Reason B is not correct. An electronic confirmation lacks the necessary official clerk's receipt or waiver order certification required by statute. Reason D is not correct. A mere statement to pay later is not accepted as proof of payment or waiver under the statute. Question 6. A petition for guardianship proposes placing an adult ward in a specific residential facility. Under Section 744.441, which factor should a court prioritize when evaluating the appropriateness of that placement? A. The facility's geographic proximity to the guardian's home. B. The ward's previously expressed preference if they retain capacity. C. The availability of third-party funding to cover placement costs. D. The guardian's professional relationship with the facility staff. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is that the ward's expressed preference must be prioritized when the ward retains capacity, reflecting the statute's requirement for the least restrictive and personally appropriate placement under Section 744.441. Reason A is not correct. Facility proximity to the guardian's home is a convenience factor, not the statutory priority under Section 744.441. Reason C is not correct. Cost coverage is relevant but secondary to the ward's capacity and preference under the statute. Reason D is not correct. A professional relationship between guardian and facility staff may raise conflict concerns but is not the primary statutory placement factor. Question 7. A guardian must approve a major medical procedure for award. According to FAC 58 meters 2.003, what is the guardian's required first step in the medical consent process? A. Obtain written consent directly from the attending physician before court notification. B. Provide a clear explanation of the procedure's purpose, risks, and alternatives to the ward. C. File a petition seeking court approval before consulting with the ward. D. Secure consent from the ward's next of kin prior to approaching the ward. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is providing the ward with a clear explanation of the procedure's purpose, risks, and alternatives, as FAC 58 meters 2.003 requires the guardian to involve the ward by giving necessary information first. Reason A is not correct. Obtaining consent from the physician precedes ward involvement, but is not the first procedural step under the rule. Reason C is not correct. Court approval may be needed for certain cases, but the rule mandates ward education before petitioning. Reason D is not correct. Next of kin consent is not a substitute for the guardian's duty to inform the ward per the consent rule. Question 8. A guardian is considering end-of-life care options for a ward diagnosed with a terminal illness. Under Section 744.444, which approach best aligns with statutory requirements for end-of-life decisions? A. Obtain court authorization for hospice enrollment unless an advance directive exists. B. Withdraw life-prolonging treatment based solely on the physician's recommendation. C. Apply the ward's known values and previously stated goals to guide decisions. D. Secure consent from the ward's durable power of attorney holder before acting. The correct answer is C. Under Section 744.444, the guardian must apply the ward's known values and prior expressions to end-of-life decisions, using substituted judgment or best interest standards when no directive exists. Reason A is not correct. Court authorization is not required for hospice enrollment when decisions fall within the guardian's authority. Reason B is not correct. Physician recommendations inform medical judgment but cannot substitute for the ward's own values. Reason D is not correct. A durable power of attorney holder may not exist or have authority when a guardian is appointed. Question 9. A potential guardian also provides private home health services to elderly clients. Under Florida probate rules, what must be submitted to address conflict of interest screening before appointment? A. A sworn statement disclosing the business relationship and consenting to court conflict screening. B. Proof of a separate corporate fiduciary bond covering potential service conflicts. C. Documentation showing no criminal elder abuse convictions within the past 5 years. D. A list of 3 independent professional references to verify impartiality. The correct answer is A. Florida probate rules require a sworn disclosure of any business relationship posing a conflict and consent to court screening before a guardian is appointed to ensure impartiality. Reason B is not correct. A separate bond does not substitute for the required conflict disclosure under the rules. Reason C is not correct. Criminal history checks address disqualification but are separate from conflict of interest screening. Reason D is not correct. Professional references may be helpful but are not mandated for conflict disclosure by the probate rules. Question 10. 2 months after filing a guardianship petition, the appointed guardian receives a request from the ward's adult child for access to the ward's medical and psychological evaluation reports. Under the confidentiality requirements of Section 744.446, the guardian cannot release sensitive records without proper authorization or court approval. Which approach best balances confidentiality obligations with appropriate family involvement? A. Provide the complete medical and psychological reports to the adult child after confirming the familial relationship. B. Supply a de-identified summary of the reports without revealing personal health details. C. Refuse any record disclosure until obtaining written consent directly from the ward. D. Offer a comprehensive summary of the ward's condition and seek a court order before disclosing the full reports. The correct answer is D. This option aligns with Section 744.446 by safeguarding sensitive health records while still informing the family and securing court approval before full disclosure. Reason A is not correct. Releasing full records upon relationship verification ignores the need for court authorization for sensitive information under Section 744.446. Reason B is not correct. Providing a de-identified summary limits meaningful family involvement and may omit critical context needed for informed decisions. Reason C is not correct. Requiring direct ward consent overlooks the guardian's authority and the statutory provision allowing court-ordered disclosures when appropriate. Question 11. When a board-certified psychiatrist with a currently suspended license is selected for an examining committee under Section 744.331, what specific statement must the psychiatrist include in the eligibility attestation filed pursuant to Section 744.367? A. An affirmation that the professional holds an unrestricted license in good standing. B. A declaration of at least 10 years of clinical experience in geriatric psychiatry. C. A certification of completion of ongoing malpractice insurance coverage. D. A statement that no relative of the ward is employed by the professional's practice. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is an affirmation that the professional holds an unrestricted license in good standing, because Section 744.367 requires each examining committee member to attest to having an active, valid professional license. Other statements regarding years of experience, insurance, or employment ties are not mandated in the statutory eligibility attestation. Reason B is not correct. A minimum years of experience declaration is not a statutory requirement for eligibility attestation under Section 744.367. Reason C is not correct. Proof of malpractice insurance coverage is not required in the eligibility attestation by Section 744.367. Reason D is not correct. An employment relationship with the ward's family members is not addressed in the Section 744.367 eligibility attestation. Question 12. An examining committee of 3 professionals is appointed by the court on March 15th. According to FAC 58 meters 2.004, by what date must each member file their written report of findings? A. April 14th. B. April 13th. C. April 15th. D. April 12th. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is April 14th because FAC AC 58 meters 2.004 requires each committee member to file their report within 30 calendar days of appointment. Counting 30 days from March 15th yields April 14th. Reason B is not correct. April 13th is only 29 days after the appointment and would be early of the 30-day period. Reason C is not correct. April 15th is 31 days after the appointment and would be untimely under the 30-day rule. Reason D is not correct. April 12th is only 28 days after the appointment and does not satisfy the 30-day requirement. Question 13. After counsel is served with the eligibility attestation packet on June 1st, the party believes one examining committee member has a disqualifying conflict. Under Section 744.3675, by what date must a written motion to disqualify that committee member be filed? A. June 5th. B. June 7th. C. June 6th. D. June 8th. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is June 6th, because Section 744.3675 mandates that any motion to disqualify an examining committee member must be filed within 5 calendar days of service. Counting 5 days from June 1st leads to June 6th. Reason A is not correct. Filing on June 5th would be only 4 days after service and misses the 5-day window. Reason B is not correct. June 7th is 6 days after service and would be untimely under the 5-day requirement. Reason D is not correct. June 8th is 7 days after service and exceeds the 5-day filing period. Question 14. During a formal hearing under Florida probate rules, the court-appointed examining committee issues split findings. A neurologist testifies that the proposed ward retains decision-making capacity, while a psychologist's report documents moderate cognitive deficits. Competing lay testimony from family members further complicates the record. In resolving the determination of incapacity, which evidentiary standard must the court apply? A. Preponderance of the evidence. B. Beyond a reasonable doubt. C. Probable cause. D. Clear and convincing evidence. The correct answer is D. This option is correct because Section 744.331 and the Florida probate rules require a finding of incapacity by clear and convincing evidence in formal incapacity proceedings. Reason A is not correct. This threshold is lower than the clear and convincing standard required for formal incapacity proceedings. Reason B is not correct. Beyond a reasonable doubt is a criminal standard and is not applied in civil probate incapacity hearings. Reason C is not correct. Probable cause is the standard for emergency temporary guardianships, not formal adjudications of incapacity. Question 15. According to Florida Statute Section 744.3725, expert testimony used in an examining committee's report on respondent incapacity must be based on A. Results from a review of the respondent's medical records only. B. Observations by the examining committee members without expert evaluation. C. A personal examination of the respondent conducted within 30 days prior to the hearing. D. Telephonic or video evaluation by an expert at any time before the evaluation period. The correct answer is C. The statute mandates that expert testimony relied upon in determining incapacity derive from a personal examination of the respondent within 30 days of the committee hearing, ensuring first-hand clinical assessment. Reason A is not correct. Expert testimony cannot be based solely on medical record review under this statute requirement. Reason B is not correct. The statute specifies expert evaluation, not just committee member observations. Reason D is not correct. Remote evaluations are not authorized. A direct personal examination is required. Question 16. As the newly appointed guardian, you must file an initial inventory under Section 744.331. Which element is specifically required in the inventory? A. The current location where each item is stored. B. The date each asset was originally acquired. C. The date of valuation and estimated value for each item. D. The names and addresses of any creditors. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is the date of valuation and estimated value for each item, because Section 744.331 mandates reporting the valuation date and approximate value for all assets on the inventory. Reason A is not correct. Location details are useful but are not mandated by Section 744.331 for the inventory. Reason B is not correct. The acquisition date is not a required field under the statutory inventory requirements. Reason D is not correct. Creditors' names and addresses are not part of the asset inventory under this section. Question 17. During the annual accounting, you follow FAC 58 meters 2.004. Which schedule is you required to include in the guardian's written accounting? A. A schedule summarizing distributions made to the ward. B. A schedule itemizing all guardian fees charged. C. A schedule of receipts and disbursements showing all funds handled. D. A schedule detailing the ward's service providers. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is the schedule of receipts and disbursements because FAC 58 meters 2.004 specifically requires that detailed record of all incoming and outgoing funds be included in the written accounting. Reason A is not correct. Summary of distributions is not a standalone schedule required by the rule. Reason B is not correct. Itemizing fees may appear but is not the specific schedule mandated. Reason D is not correct. Service provider details are not part of the required accounting schedules. Question 18. Your accounting shows the ward's estate now exceeds $150,000 in assets. Under Section 744.341, which circumstance will trigger an audit by the court-appointed examiner? A. Total guardianship assets exceeding $100,000. B. A formal complaint alleging guardian negligence. C. Failure to file the annual guardian plan on time. D. Petition by the ward to modify guardianship. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is total guardianship assets exceeding $100,000 because Section 744.341 specifies that when the ward's assets surpass that threshold, an audit is automatically triggered. Reason B is not correct. A negligence complaint may lead to investigation but is not an automatic audit trigger under Section 744.341. Reason C is not correct. Late plan filing may result in sanctions but does not by itself mandate an audit. Reason D is not correct. A ward's petition to modify guardianship does not automatically initiate an audit. Question 19. At an adjudication hearing under Section 744.331 and the Florida probate rules, the court ordered a guardian to maintain a $150,000 fiduciary bond. 6 months after appointment, the guardian filed the annual accounting but failed to file proof of bond renewal. The clerk issued a deficiency notice, but the guardian did not respond. Which is the most appropriate next step? A. Enter an order removing the guardian for failure to maintain the required bond. B. Issue an order to show cause requiring the guardian to file proof of bond renewal within 10 days or face removal. C. Impose a monetary surcharge for failure to maintain the fiduciary bond. D. Grant the guardian an additional 30 days to file proof of bond renewal without further court action. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is to issue an order to show cause because the guardian must receive notice and an opportunity to cure a bond deficiency before removal proceedings, ensuring compliance with bond maintenance requirements under the probate rules. Reason A is not correct. Removing the guardian immediately without providing notice and an opportunity to cure the bond deficiency bypasses due process requirements under the Florida probate rules. Reason C is not correct. Imposing a surcharge addresses financial mismanagement, but does not compel the guardian to maintain the required fiduciary bond. Reason D is not correct. Granting an extension without a formal order to show cause does not ensure the guardian's accountability for bond renewal. Question 20. Under Section 744.361 of the Florida statutes, what must a guardian include in a verified petition for fees before the court can consider approving compensation? A. An itemized statement of services performed by date, time spent, and expenses incurred. B. A copy of the guardian's current fiduciary bond. C. A proposed order outlining the court's fee determination. D. Documentation of the guardian's completed continuing education hours. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is an itemized statement of services performed by date, time spent, and expenses incurred because Section 744.361 requires detailed schedules to support the fee petition. Other documents, such as the fiduciary bond, proposed order, or continuing education documentation, are not specifically mandated to accompany the verified fee petition under this statute. Reason B is not correct. A copy of the fiduciary bond is not required to accompany the fee petition under Section 744.361, but rather is maintained separately as part of the guardianship record. Reason C is not correct. A proposed order is not a compulsory component of a verified fee petition under Section 744.361. It may be submitted later if directed by the court. Reason D is not correct. Continuing education documentation is not specified as part of the verified fee petition requirements in Section 744.361. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below, we read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.